The Witch stars Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Ensign. Is written and directed by first-time director Robert Eggers. The film takes place in the 1600s as William, played by Ralph Ensign, is kicked out of this colonial kind of settlement, and along with his family, they try to make a journey and start a new life for themselves after leaving the colony. Several months pass by, and then an incident involves their newest born being kidnapped. You kind of see the family starts descending both mentally and deteriorating as a family function, with these supernatural tendencies being afoot. Robert Eggers, he during Sundance won Best Director for this film. And this film has been getting a lot of buzz coming from the festival circuits. And so I had a lot of expectations, even though I shouldn't. I had a lot of expectations as a horror film coming in. And boy, for the most part, it didn't disappoint. Eggers kind of uses, with his cinematographer, this bleak palette of capturing the woods during the 1600s, and it gives kind of like this kind of horrific feel to it. The camera shots with the family members really close up is something that kind of builds the horror out. With last year's It Follows, which made my top 10 film list last year, these kind of really good new horror films, along with other films like The Babadook, a lot of the film that creates in horror isn't based on jump scares, but it is also based on creating the mood, the atmosphere, the tension, which Eggers captures really well in this film. So as Anya, the character she plays, Thomasin, goes through when she loses the newborn in the beginning, you kind of see where the family starts to deteriorate from the inside. You know, the father left the colony, taking his family out of it because he was too prideful. You have a mother that is grieving for losing that newborn, yet had some secrets to hide. The son, starting in adolescent phase, starts seeing all these things, and the twins there's fraternal twins in part of their family that just are, annoying. I think that's what the take of the movie is for the most part. But there's a lot of lies being told within this family. The one great thing about this is that when you see Thomasin start calling people out on these lies, they kind of, are pointing at her that maybe she is the witch, this supernatural being that might have forsaken the family and the living that where it's at. And I thought that was really cool. So there are some spoilers ahead, so I forewarn you. If not, I would just fast forward through because there are some spoilers I need to talk about. In the beginning of the movie, as the newborn gets disappeared, you get to actually see the witch in this film. And Eggers, I think, made it very clear that in this universe, even though he used a lot of different journals, handwritten testimonies about these stories back then about these witches, he wanted in this film to make sure witches are real. And to me, that kind of hinders it towards the end of the movie. And I'll explain to you why. Because when we first are introduced to the witch, we know that there is something there, right? And so what happens is our anticipation of the film and all this glory is something we're waiting for the witch in whatever form she is to bring it in. I like the tropes that they use, whether it's the black goat, the rabbit. It builds up that suspense. But my biggest thing with this whole film is the idea of lying and how Thomasin, who acknowledges that she has, impure thoughts in her, tries to do everything truthful while everyone around her doesn't, and that's when things start turning afoot. At the end, and this is why I thought the movie was good for the most part, the last 10 minutes of that movie, I think, made a very big mistake on Eggers' part. Some people might applaud it. Some people, might think that's outside the box. To me, it kind of derails what he did in the past hour and 20 minutes. Because that hour and 20 minutes, he created the atmosphere, he created the mood. There's some fantastic performances from people I've never heard of, which makes me lose myself in the film, which I thought was great. But that last 10 minutes I almost changed the letter grade that I had for this film because it negatively impacted me to the point where I questioned what happened in the beginning with the rest of the movie that I did see. It's not as bad as Danny Boyle's Sunshine because that last quarter of the film completely took me out of what he did with the first 3/4, but this was a little close. But that being said, I applaud these type of horror films. I mean, I saw The Forest this year, and I thought, it had some good intentions for the first half of the movie. Then the second half of the film became just a generic horror picture, and I could care less about that stuff. But this, the jump scare quotient is low. Terribly low. I think it's 2 at the most. But what makes this film a really good horror film is just the idea of atmosphere and tension, and the story is just well told. Like I said, the last 10 minutes aside, if I never saw those last 10 minutes, I'm pretty sure this film could have been, or would have been in my top 10, or at least lingering there as 2016 rolls along. But that being said, I'm going to give this movie a B. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this film. What are some of your favorite horror films, and why is it those movies stick to you? You can find me on social media through Twitter or Instagram at jno11. That's at jngo11. I also have a website, jnomoviethoughts.blogspot.com. Intro music is from bensound.com. Thanks for listening, and keep on watching films.